Come on, go live. Come on, live. Are you working? Are we live? Looks like we are live. Let's put down the quality. That looks like we're live. Nice, 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 nice. Let's go and see if we can open up and find the chat, because this evening we'll be playing around, editing some photos, and I'll be showing you some really cool stuff on how we actually set up the scene for the specific shot that we're busy working with. So let's just see if it's live. Yeah, that looks live. Nice, nice, awesome. Evening, everybody. Hope you guys are doing quite well. Swap over to my big old face. This evening we'll be going over how I set up the shot for a session that we had with Abigail over the weekend, as well as we will not only be setting up or going through the shot breakdown on how we set up the shot, how we set our settings and such. We'll also be doing a editing session with the specific shots that we got as well, because it's nice that I can get to show you guys what I work with, how I set my things up, and how we get everything working as well. So without further ado, let's just close that little window. So over to my beautiful screen. There we go, there we go. So for this shoot session, we had to scout a lovely little new location, because it's always important that we scout new locations, find new cool locations to work with and such as well. And we had so much fun with this one that, let me grab this. So before we actually even went to do the shoot, I drove around and I was looking for a really cool spot to shoot in and do just some really cool stuff with. And the one spot that came up to me is this little spot here that we shot in. So let me pull up a Google map for us. I'll go to George on it so I can show you the location we shot in. Go to maps and let me show you where we took this photo in. So this is George. Hi George. There's a little flyover thingy. Apologies. And then we want to go, where is this now? There's that thing, we go back, we go back, we go back. There we go. So it should be behind here, I believe. In that little street there. Let's follow the railroad tracks. It goes all the way there. So I want to show you the location and why I chose this specific location. So let's go here. Down, 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 down. I believe it's down this way. Down that way, I believe it is. So let's drop there. To see where we are. Google Maps. And we're just going to go to the location, because it's important that we do understand the location we're working in, because it is important that we know that the location we work in, we can get some really cool results in. Now this doesn't look right. Open the map. Hi, move, little dude, move. We want you there. Let's see this location. That looks, that's the one circle there, which means we go this way. Jeez, George has some really weird stuff. Cool. Yes, so we want to go this way. Down on this street, and then we're going to go left in the front here. Nope, skip this one, go to the next one. There we go. And this is the street that I found for us to work in. Now the reason why this is such a cool little location is we have this really cool bridge that we can work under, and just underneath the bridge we have a lot of shadows. We've got some really cool little graffiti on the walls as well, and here we go. So this is our location. And if we go here, this is underneath the bridge. So we've got our lovely light bouncing in from all over the place on the left and the right hand side of the bridge, which means we can simply place our subject in the scene and get a nice bit of full light on it as well. So as you can see, the location we shot in is this wall right here, and that is a lovely location to shoot in, because we get a lovely bit of natural light filling in from the side, which we can accent using our flash, and we did do that. So let's close Google Maps. So let's go over MS Paint. Come on, MS Paint, so we can do a little shot setup for you. There you go. So this is our shot setup. What we do is we have our wall in the back, like such, with our subject standing in front of the wall, like that. And we're shooting from below, so it's this location right here. And we have our light set up on a light stand just around here, more or less. There you go. So this is a top view. So this is the way that we set up the shot. Now the reason we wanted to add light in from this angle is so we could get that nice little shadow on the left hand side, as well as we're just adding to the already natural light which is bouncing in from the scene. So the reason we want to add to the lovely natural light is because it was still a little bit dark, so we did want to just make our subject pop a little bit more, so we just want to add a little bit of light. So we added the Godox V1 on a light stand, popped it to the right hand side of our subject at more or less a 45-degree angle. And if we check this from a different perspective, so let's move this over like this so we can see, and move it like that. So if we look at this from the front view, we have our subject standing here. Oops, no, let's use a little circle. Choose a circle, there you go. So this is front view. We've got our subject standing here, we're looking directly at our subject, and we have our light set up above the subject to the right hand side, as such, pointing, ooh, that's a wrong little line, there you go, pointing down slightly, because this allows us to get a nice little even thing, because we don't want to bounce light just directly at our subject. We want a nice fall of shadow on the left hand side of the subject. So to achieve that, we actually needed to raise the light so that the light direction changes, so that the light doesn't shoot directly on our subject, throwing a shadow backwards. We wanted the light at a higher angle shooting down on our subject, so that we can get a shadow falling on the wall behind the subject, but in a very elongated little way on that side. It just works much easier that way. Now for the light, we used the trusty Godox V1, which is a really awesome light, and I always have one with me in my camera bag. There we go. But the trick comes in that we didn't use the Godox V1 as a bare bulb flash. Instead, we use the AKR22 diffuser on it. This little thing right here. And the nice thing about this is it gives us a very nice spread of light, because we can also do this on it. Pop it in, which will give us a nice focused beam, which is the way we used it. So we simply pop this on flash, like such. Come on, pop on. Here we go. Pop it onto a flash. Pop it down in like such, and we aimed it at a more or less 45-degree angle downwards at our subject, at more or less to the right hand side at more or less a 45-degree from our subject as well, which gave us a really good lighting position to basically shoot and get these really lovely shadows on the left hand side of the subject instead of getting them behind the subject, which might have been a bit weird. Now the other thing also is we didn't shoot the flash at full power. We only needed about 1/8 of a power on the flash, and I believe my flash might still be set like that. Man, change. Yes, I know, beep, beep. There you go, yep, still set as 1/8. There you go, oh, I love it so much, love it so much. Still set as 1/8 of a power, because we don't want to overpower the scene with our light to make things look very unnatural. We want to complement our scene with our subject, and the best way to do that is to just add in a bit of more full light. So as you can see, this is our view from above, and this is our view from the front. So the light distance from our subject was give or take 2 meters, because that's a lovely distance I like to work with. The height from the ground to the top where the flash was is also just about 2 meters as well. So I had the light stand up quite high and aiming down at our angled down at our subject, which gave us, hey Bruce dude, welcome, welcome. We are busy doing a shot breakdown, and we're going to do a bit of editing as well, because we like to edit our stuff. Yes, so due to the distance and height of our flash to our subject, this little flash We don't need that much power at all because we've got a dome dipped in, so we get a nice beam of light, a soft beam of light, which is very important, because if we used this as a bare bulb, we would get many hotspots. I'll show you how it looks in a second. So for our shot setup, we had the light at a power of 1/8. Good evening, dude. Nice of you to join us as well. We had the light at 1/8 of a power. We had a little dome diffuser on it, 2 meters away from our subject, 2 meters into the sky, angled down at more or less a 45-degree angle at our subject, which gave us this really lovely fall of shadow to work with, which we like. Now, let's go into why we use this little diffuser and not a bare bulb. So let's go into develop, minimize this. So notice the way the light has fallen on our subject. It's a nice soft light, so we can right click, settings, reset settings, and as you can see, we've done no editing to this photo at all. This is just from using this little speed light with this little diffuser. Because we're using this little silicone diffuser on it, it allows us to soften down the light, and softer light means we get nice skin tones. We can go to the second photo as well, and we will retain our nice skin tones. We don't have any weird hot spots or anything as such at all, and it just makes it easier for us to work with, which is important because you need to diffuse your light. If we had this light with no diffuser firing at our subject, we would have hotspots, and we'd have them all on the edges. So we'd have hotspot there, hotspot on the arm, hotspot on the tummy, and hotspot on the legs as well. But we don't want that. We always want to diffuse our light in any way we can, just so it can be a little bit softer to work with, and just makes it much easier to work with as well. So we used the AKR22 from Godox. This thing is awesome. Now the reason I used this and not my white shoot through umbrella is because it was, again, a little bit windy, because it is George, and while we were busy setting up, testing light and such, the light stand actually blew over with the umbrella, and the umbrella got damaged. The wind got it, and at least the flash survived the fall, which is always really good. And we just then swapped out to the AKR22, which just makes the profile of your modifier and light very nice and small and easier to work with, especially if you're working in windy conditions, because the wind, when she grabs your stuff, she grabs it so nicely and she destroys all your stuff, which is so annoying. But yes, there you go. So that was our shot setup. We had a very basic setup, top view on the left hand side. Let me just move it like this so you can see top view from the left hand side, light at more or less a 45-degree angle from our subject, and at more or less 2 meters away from our subject at 1/8 of power, using our AKR22 diffuser. For the height of the shot, I can move it that way. For the height of the shot, this is our front view. We had the light stand at about 2 meters high, with our light angled down at more or less a 45-degree angle at our subject. Again, with our AKR22 little diffuser on the flash, because that allows us to get nice soft light. And then we just shoot. And no matter how my subject moves in the scene, we will always make use of that really good light to work with. And it's very easy to work with at all as well. So the way that I normally work is, before we even start shooting the subject, I always test my light. I set up my scene, set up my light, everything's looking correct, the light's adding a really nice amount of light for us. Then we add our subject to the scene. It just makes the workflow nice and easy. So let's edit this photo because we want to keep it nice and easy. So first things we want to do is we want to adjust our white balance. So we're going to do this in a two-part edit. We're going to edit in Lightroom first, make all of our base adjustments, and then we're going to move this into Photoshop and do our retouching really nice and fast. So first things first, we need to fix our white balance. So white balance, if we move it around to the right hand side, you'll see the picture gets warm. Move it to the left hand side, picture gets very cold. But we want to have a nice balance, so we're going to move it a little bit to the warm, because it is a little warm scene. A tint, if you move it to the left, things go green. Move it to the right, things go magenta. We do not want that. We might want to adjust this slightly towards magenta. There we go. And we've now corrected our white balance. Nice, easy and fast. From here on, we want to correct our exposure. Do we have any exposure problems on our scene? Do we want to correct them? So on our scene, we might want to add some contrast, just to make things pop a little bit more. There we go. And then we just want to bring down the highlights a little bit for those skin tones, and we can play around with the shadows as well. They do affect quite a lot, so we're not going to play around too much with the shadows. Just add a little bit of that. Clarity, we want to add a tiny bit, and texture as well, just a tiny bit. And with our vibrance and stuff, we can do some cool stuff because we've got all this really cool graffiti on the walls. But I think what we're going to do is, instead of using the global adjustment on the right hand side for saturation, because remember we always go first white balance, then we go exposure, then we go saturation. Should we change anything with saturation? For our subject, we do not need to change the saturation because that will affect our skin tones way too much. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to create a mask. We're going to click on our masking tool, and due to the fact that Lightroom has got this really cool function where you can click on background and it will create a mask for you for the entire background, which will allow us then to basically now adjust the saturation of the background only without affecting our subject's skin tones, which is very important. So on the background layer, we can now bring up the saturation. That's way too much. Bring it down. That's not good at all. So we're going to add a little bit of saturation just so we can get the color to pop a little bit more, like such. We want to darken it down a bit by adding some contrast and dropping the shadows a little bit as well. Oops, not too much though. And the highlights, we can adjust those as well, just a tiny bit. There you go. Nice, easy and fast. Not rocket science at all. There you go. So just some minor adjustments to our white balance, exposure and saturation, just to give us a lovely natural looking picture to start with. Because remember, we always want to aim to get a natural edit before we start doing fancy stuff like retouching and all this other things as well. Because it's important that we get a workflow correct, that we know that first we do our white balance, then we do our exposure, then we do our saturation. Once you're done with those three, you should have a natural looking scene and subject with skin tones that look natural, with color tones that still look natural as well on your background and such. And once you've corrected all of these things, now we can go and say, cool, let's do some retouching work. And we're going to do that in Photoshop using the NBP retouching tools little plugin, which is awesome. So after we've done our edit, we go right click, and then you get your little thingy and it says edit in, and we're going to select Photoshop. So what this will do is this will take your adjustments you've now made to your photo on Lightroom, create a little file for you, and take that file into Photoshop for you, where you can now start doing your more advanced retouching things, and you can just start making things look really good. So that's open on my other screen. So let's just bring it over to the correct screen so you can see what I'm seeing. Yeah man, open up. There we go. Drag it over, hi, and just drag a panel over as well. There you go, cool. So now we've got our subject in Photoshop, where we've got access to all the lovely retouching tools we enjoy using so much. So first thing I want to do is on the background, on the right hand side, we do have some highlights, and you see those little weird blue artifacts. We want to remove those because those create a point of distraction. So this is before we do any skin retouching or anything as such as well. We just first want to check our background, make sure our scene complements our subject. So in this case, that is a point of distraction, which I hate. So we're going to go adjustments, add a vibrance layer, pull it down, just so we can take away that blue a little bit more. There you go, like such. Perfect. We're going to select the white little block, which is our mask, Control I to invert it. Select our brush. Make sure we've got a white brush selected. I'm just going to paint over the blue areas just to remove those blue edges for us, because we want to just make things a little bit less distracting in this highlight spot, because highlight spots like these do create points of distraction from your main subject, and we don't want that. We want all the attention on our main subject. So there we go. We've now removed the blue adequately. There we go. We've now removed those little blue artifacts. So this is before and this is after. Always important to remember, we want to pay close attention to our background when we start the editing process, because your background is as important as your subject. if we leave the background all messy with weird colors and stuff, that will create a distraction which will take away attention from our main subject, and we don't want that at all. So another thing I like to do is I like to throw on some music for myself, because I edit with music. There we go, because I like the music. Let's go back to my live stream thing so I can see chat. There you go. And now we can simply go around our scene, check the background first, because the background is very important, especially in this case, and just make sure we've got no weird distracting elements or colors or artifacts or things as such that we might need to remove. We're also checking the ground for any cans or weird stuff like that we can remove from our edit, because we want to make sure once we do edit this that everything ties in nicely. There's a snail on the wall. Nice, that's cool. I like snails. There you go. Now I think our background's quite good. There you go. Awesome. So the next thing we want to do is now we want to start editing on our subject, and this is going to be fun because we can use the SKN plugin from NBP, the retouching tools, and this will give us some really cool stuff. So because I've worked with Abigail before, I already have presets made for Abigail. So when I click on one of those, click on play, and what this will do is the first cleanup will go through, find our skin tones and do a little bit of softening on the skin tones for us, and then after this we can then start to apply a gradient to it as well, because we like to make the subject, even though we can't see the close-up details, we still want to do this because we want to make sure that we get the best out of our edit as possible, and this is just one of the ways we can do that. Nice, easy and fast. There you go. So that's done our skin for us. We will adjust the opacity and stuff for it just now. We can go to tones as well, and we've got one for Abigail here as well to correctly tone her skin the way that I did it the previous time on a different photo. There you go. So just by clicking two little buttons, we've now gone from this to smoothing the skin a bit and then toning the skin a bit. Super easy, super fast, nice and easy. We like stuff like that. Now what you'll notice is my photo, my one leg is more exposed than my other leg. This is due to the position of the light and a whole bunch of other cool stuff like that. So do we fix it? Yes or no? Nah, I think I'm going to leave it just like that. It annoys people, so I'm going to leave it because I like things like that. But yes, so now we want to also just adjust our toning, because as you can see we've gone a little bit too bright on the skin tones, so we can come into our little toning thingy and just go to brightness and drop it. That's a bit too much. Let's go up a little bit. There we go. Go to the highlights, drop those down as well a little bit. There you go. And that's evened things out a little bit better for us. There you go. Much better as well. There we go. Very nice. Now another thing I want to do is I might want to just adjust this layering, because I think our editing layer or retouch layer has affected. Well, it's actually done quite a nice job actually. That's quite good. I like that. No need to change it. Very good, very good. Now the other thing we also need to do is we need to edit the prop, because our subject is holding a really cool prop. Now on that we can go adjustments, vibrance, bring up that vibrance, and just keep an eye on the wood. That's the only thing we're currently worried about. Like such. There we go. We can make sure we select the layer on it. Control I to invert. Select our brush. Make sure our brush is white. And then paint over the wood. Because this will now allow us to get a little bit better color going into the wood for us. Because we do like that a little bit extra pop on the wood. We also want to maybe go to our adjustments. Make a brightness adjustment. Bring down the brightness a bit and maybe increase the contrast a bit. There we go. And we're going to do again, select our mask layer on our edit, Control I to invert it, make sure we've got a white brush selected, and we're going to paint over the wood just to darken the wood down a little bit more so we can get a bit more of that detail from the wood. There you go. Nice, easy and fast like this. We're just doing this really fast so we can be fast and to the point. There we go. Because yes, we also need to pay attention to our props. Make sure they all tie in very well. There we go. So that has now fixed the board for us. See, easy and fast, before and after. Next, we want to do some work on the pants. Love this. Hey Bruce, dude, no problems at all. We're going to do a whole bunch of cool more stuff. Now the pants are blue originally, so if we go to a adjustment layer, and we're going to go to our, where's vibrance again, bring it all the way up, and we can get some of that blue back. Yeah, we can maybe do it like this. It might look a bit odd though, so maybe not. So all I'm doing now is I'm just paying attention to the pants. But I don't think vibrance will do it for us. We might need to go back in and check if we can do a adjustment layer for our hue saturation maybe. Select the blue channel and just increase the saturation on it. And now we can also decrease the lightness on it. Like such, should be fine. We can even change the color of it. We can actually change the color of it if we want. We can give it yellow pants. Yeah, you can do cool stuff with Photoshop. Nah, never mind. We can't really adjust the pants too much, unfortunately. But they were blue originally, so I wanted to make them pop a little more. Not gonna happen. Now, next we want to do is we also want to adjust the hair a little bit. So we're gonna go adjustment layers, brightness and contrast again. Bring it up a little bit, and we're only keeping an eye on the hair, nothing else. So there's our hair. We just want to make sure that we get something nice going for the hair. There you go, just like that should be fine. Select on our brightness layer the mask, Control I to invert it, grab a paintbrush, make sure it's white, and then we can just paint in some extra highlights for the hair. We only want to work on the hair, nothing else. There we go. There we go, nice and easy. And these ones as well a little bit. There we go, nice and easy. Now we've also added some life to the hair. Oh, very nice, very nice. So this is before the hair adjustment, and this is after the hair adjustment. We've just added some light to the hair just to make things pop a little bit better as well, because we do want a lovely edit. Now another thing I want to do to this photo is I want to create a vignette. We want to darken down things a little bit as well. So the easy way to do that is we can select our lasso tool, press L on your keyboard to select the lasso tool. We're going to draw around our subject. Like this. Bloop. With our selection made, we can go to our adjustments. We're going to find our brightness and contrast, click on that, and it'll create a new layer for us where the brightness affects that much. So we want to invert this mask so it affects everything outside, because we still want our subject to be nice and light. So with this new brightness adjustment selected, Control I to invert the mask, it will now affect everything outside of the mask for us, which is cool. Now we also want to favor it a little bit. So to favor it, we need to click on our layered mask, and you can see it's got a density and a favor option. So if we move the favor option to the right hand side, it'll soften down the edge on the shadow for us. We will readjust it just now. So no favoring means it's a very hard edge. We don't like hard edges. If we move it to the right hand side, that's going to soften down a little bit more, a little bit more. There you go, perfect. So that softened down the thing for us quite nicely. It does look odd, so let's click on the little light thingy, which will give us the adjustments for our background again. And now we can increase the contrast and drop the brightness. And what you'll see is it'll drop all the brightness around our subject, but not the subject herself. There you go, nice, easy and fast little vignette. Maybe a little bit less. There you go, nice, easy and fast. Because now we've got our subject popping a little bit. It doesn't look really weird and awkward. We also want to straighten out the line a little bit, because I do think this isn't as straight as it needs to be. So let's just readjust. Actually, I am more or less there where I need to be. Let's zoom in. No, go away. No, no, don't do the thing. There you go, cool. So we want to adjust this line, and what we're doing is we're keeping an eye on this horizontal line there, because we want to now adjust so that it's nice and straight. So if you move it to the left, it's going to tilt the entire image to the left. If we move it to the right, it's going to tilt the entire image to the right. So we want to find where that line lines up perfectly so that it's nice and straight. So we were actually more or less there. So we might want to just go like that. There we go. Click yes, and that will rotate the thingy for us and crop it, and then our scene is nice and level. Because it's nice when we do have leading lines and things as such, we do want to make sure our scene is nice and level. Because it just makes things look a little bit better, more professional. We don't want a skewy image because it doesn't work with it. Oh, cool. Photoshop decided to generate fill for the area. Huh, this could be cool. Because yes, with the new Photoshop, if you do use your cropping tool, Photoshop will actually generate fill for you. So you see this empty spot here on the left hand side. Check what's happening to that as soon as Photoshop finishes this. And presto. 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 Come on, Photoshop. Pick up speed, dang it. Photoshop's slow sometimes. There you go. Cool. See, so Photoshop fills in those little areas for us. Very nice and very neat. And we've got a nice straight scene, which I like. And there we go. So that's basically done all of that for us. And the lovely thing is, with all of these adjustments, we can select them all. Right click, and we can group them. Group from layers. Group 1. There we go. So now we can switch everything off, and we can go through our entire edit. So in Lightroom, we aimed to get a lovely natural looking image first, because that's very important. To get that in Lightroom, we first adjust our white balance. Then we adjust our exposure. Then we adjust our saturation if needed. So those are the 3 steps you would normally follow to make sure that you get a lovely natural looking image in Lightroom. Then from here we went to Photoshop with a nice natural looking image, and we started to do all the fun stuff with our skin retouching. So first we did the SKN panel from NBP retouching tools. Love them so much, they make life so easy. And we've got a preset for Abigail which looks like this, which will soften down the skin for us in a very natural, pleasing way. This is before and this is after, which is nice. Then also on the SKN panel, we've created a profile for Abigail to tone her skin. So if you switch it on, it's going to tone the skin for us again. So this is before and this is after. So that's done all of our toning and the retouching of the skin for us. And then from here, we went to work with doing all of our editing for the rest of the scene. We added some hair light to the hair so we can just get a little bit brighter on the hair. We've also at the same time darkened down the right hand corner, the blue tones on it, so we can remove these really annoying blue artifacts, because it's important we pay attention to our background. And then from here we are basically done, which is nice and easy. You can maybe go in, if you have metal on your surfaces, you can actually, let me show you a cool trick. You can go to dodge and burn, select dodge on your metal surfaces, and you can just make them pop a little bit more. There we go. Just like that's fine. And we're going to do the same on the bottom metal surfaces. Come on, don't down me, Photoshop. Photoshop, did you die? I keep forgetting I've got way too many stuff open. Hello, Photoshop? Zoom out. Come on, Photoshop. Yeah, this is a large file. It's a 40 megapixel APS-C file from a Fujifilm XT5. That has killed my Photoshop, unfortunately. So we'll just need to wait for this to eventually respond by itself, which is annoying, but yes, there you go. So the main thing we want to do is when we edit, we always want to aim for a natural edit first. Once we've done our natural edit, we then move over to Photoshop to do all the other really cool and lovely bits of editing there. Come on, view, fit to screen. Yeah, my Photoshop's decided to die. Such is life, such is life. I do actually need to reinstall Photoshop. Sucks, but anyway, So there we go. So if I can get this closed and saved, can I save it? Does it allow me to save? Oh, it's saving actually. Oh, that's nice. So that means if it saves, we can actually close it and reopen it up again, and then we can just see the final edit as well, because it's important we make sure that our final edit looks good, and then once our final edit looks good, we can then export it correctly for social media use. Remember, when we export, we always want to export at JPEG, long edge, resize to 2048, and that gives us a lovely little file for social media use, which is important because we want to make sure Facebook likes the stuff we give it, because you know Facebook does tend to destroy quality on things if you upload them on too large a size. That's just one of those things. So come on, save up, and that is at 98% saved. Yeah man, 2% more to go, then we can close this up and open it up again. So anyway, Photoshop sometimes can be a bit of a pain to use due to the fact that it does slow down a little bit, especially if you're running Photoshop and Lightroom at the same time. It does do some funky and or odd stuff. So unfortunately, I think it has basically died. Let's close it. Yeah, I know I can't close because it's busy saving. It's at 2%. Meh. Anyway, let me show you how to export while that's busy trying to do the thing. So if you edited your photos in Lightroom, you can simply on any photo in Lightroom, right click, select export, select export again. It's going to give you a little export block. Now in the export block, we want to go down to these two settings right here. File setting, which will be a JPEG, quality 100%. The next one underneath that is your image sizing. So we want to size to fit on the longest edge at 2048. These are the settings that we would normally use if we want to export from Lightroom. Now Photoshop is more or less the same thing as well. So Photoshop is could not save because the file is too big. Oh, oops. I guess my Photoshop editor file is too big, but anyway, to export in Photoshop, we would go File, Export, Export As. It's going to give us a lovely little block that pops up. Not my Photoshop though, so let's... Oh, my Photoshop actually did it! It's allowing me to export. Wow, thank you, Photoshop. Photoshop can be annoying sometimes. Come on. Yeah, this is a huge file. There you go. So in Photoshop, we're going to go through the settings for exporting. It's very easy. Top right side, we want to make sure JPEG is selected. Quality, we want to move over to 7, which is the best quality for JPEGs. And now for our resizing, it's going to be very easy. You've got two sizes. You've got your width, you've got your height. So whichever one of these two is the biggest one, we're going to select and change to 2048. Now if you press tab, it will automatically change the other edge to fit as well. So there we go. We've now resized this from a 40 megapixel file to a social media friendly 2048 on the longest edge file. We simply then click export, which will then ask us where we want to save this. We want to save it on the desktop, save, and that will now give us a lovely exported file to work with. Just makes life easier if you do the things nice and correctly. So this file that we've now exported will be appropriate for social media use. So let's go to the file we exported. Here's the file, drag it over. So here's our file that we exported from Photoshop. Right click properties on the file, move this block out of the way, go away. And on the file, if you go to details, you'll see the dimensions. The largest number is 2048. So this file is properly resized for social media use, which is good. So from here on, we can just upload it and we can go crazy and do all the cool stuff. My Photoshop has died. Photoshop sucks sometimes. Anyway, there you go. So that has been a short breakdown and just a little fast edit for you guys in regards to doing things correctly in Lightroom first and then moving from Lightroom to Photoshop to get all the stuff nice and sorted. So hopefully you guys found this interesting and or helpful. If you have any questions, drop them down below and we can get them sorted out for you as well, because it is always important that we... Oh, that button increases my exposure. Nice. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you if you're watching this after the fact, and I hope that you've learned something, and I hope that you manage to get your photos sorted out as well. Anyway, keep well, keep safe, and I hope you guys have a lovely evening. I'm gonna go make coffee. Yeah, I'm gonna go make coffee. I like coffee.